What's up, everybody? Mike from MT Aviation Photo and Film here, and welcome to another episode of the AvPod. In today's episode, we have a fellow Michigan spotter and YouTuber with me, and it is Blake from Casper Aviation. So welcome, Blake.
What's up, dude? It's good to be here.
Thank you. All right, so just like the last one, we're going to kind of start off by talking about you and what kind of got you into aviation.
What got me into aviation, if I'm being 100% honest with you, I have no clue, like, at all. It's just, I got into aviation at such a young age that neither me, my parents, or anybody in my family actually knows what got me into it. It was just one day, I don't know, planes were cool, and we went from there.
That's, I kind of can relate to that, because, like, a lot of people, you hear about their stories, and they're like, oh, like, my grandpa flew, and my dad flew, and I wanted to be a pilot, but, like, my start in aviation, like, one day my friend was just like, hey, do you want to go to this summer camp thing at Oakland County Airport, and you get to, like, fly a little Cessna, and I'm like...
I did that.
Yeah,
yeah, I did that.
Yeah, like, same thing, and, like, honestly, I was kind of like, yeah, okay, I mean, that sounds kind of neat, so that's what got me started in airplanes. And like I never really wanted to be a pilot, but then I didn't really know what I wanted to do, so I kind of, like, a guy came from the mechanic school and talked to our auto tech class one day, and I'm like, oh, that sounds kind of neat. So that's actually how I got my start too. So that's kind of cool.
Yeah.
So all right, so yeah, you kind of had no clue, but now you're obviously in aviation as a plane spotter. You do YouTube and Instagram and stuff like that, but you're kind of continuing in aviation with a career as well.
Yeah, so right now I'm a student at Embry-Riddle, and no, that does not make me a loser, contrary to popular belief. But so it's initially I started with the plane spotting and everything because I was a kid who couldn't drive or do anything except hold up an iPod Touch with a camera at the at DTW back when Northwest flew there. But essentially I always kind of knew I wanted to be a pilot, so I just, as I got older and more opportunities showed up. I mean, I went to that summer camp you mentioned. You know, that's the first entry in my logbook. But went to that summer camp. You know, my parents were friends with a couple pilots, so they introduced me to them, kind of helped me lay out a plan. I took my first official lesson when I was 11 years old, and just kind of kept working up towards my private since then. Got my private. I applied to a few aviation schools around the country, like Riddle, Western, Purdue, UND. I got accepted into them, and I was left with the choice. I chose, why not change things up? I'll live in Florida for a few years, go down to Embry-Riddle, especially because they gave me a scholarship because it is very expensive. So without the scholarship, I would not be there. But essentially now, like, I'm down there, I got my instrument rating, I'm about to get my commercial license, and the plan is to just keep cranking out these hours, these ratings, until I can do one of two things, which will be fly for the airlines or fly fast jets in the military. And I'm just kind of setting both up so that way when I need to make the choice, it'll go smoothly.
So how long have you been in school at this point?
So as we're recording this, I'm actually leaving for my junior year in like a day. But so essentially I spend my summers in Michigan, my winters in Florida, following the normal college semester kind of thing. But this will be my third year, and I should have one more after this before I'm done at school.
Okay, so roughly how many flight hours do you think you have at this point?
Somewhere around 200, maybe more, maybe less. I don't have my logbook on me, but it's around there. So not very many, but enough to do the job.
Still more than a lot.
Yeah, so
we're making progress. So yeah, that's your, like, school and kind of aviation work life. And as we mentioned earlier, you do have a big presence on social media. And your Instagram right now has 197,000 followers. And that's Casper_Aviation on Instagram.
Yeah, I have no idea how that happened. It just kind of manifested itself. But if you want to go check it out, we'll put the links and stuff in there. Because I suck at spelling. I was never good at English, so Casper, it's like the ghost, but different because reasons. But Yeah, there's a reason. It's a play on my last name, but yeah, well, if you want to go check it out, you can. I'm not really active on there right now, but we'll get into that later.
So yeah, the link for everything will be down below in the video description, or it should be the background. But the other link we're going to talk about is your YouTube, which is also Casper Aviation without the underscore this time. But you recently just hit a really big milestone on YouTube, and that's becoming a YouTube partner.
Yeah, so it's nice to be the partner, especially because I've had this channel since I think 2015, and I've just never really cared to take care of it or anything. It was just kind of a place for me to throw stuff up and see how it did. I have all my old videos that are archived on there, and they're not public right now because they are terrible. This is like a really young kid essentially throwing stuff up there back then. So if there's enough demand, sure, I'll make them public again, but I really don't think you'll want to watch them. I mean, there's some Delta 747s in there, but there's also some really bad noise. Before I could drive, I was spotting, so you can hear my family screaming in the background for like watching stuff or laughing at stuff. So it's just, they're not pleasant, but essentially it wasn't until recently when I was like, all right, you can do something with these YouTube channels. So I just kind of started taking care of it, and I'm lucky that my stuff is getting the attention it does, and I was able to become a partner.
Yeah, and a lot of your videos are doing like just amazing. It's kind of it honestly, some of this stuff kind of reminds me of how Sean over at Aviation's channel does, where some of you, like your one of your recent videos from a couple months ago, it's got 123,000 views for some departures out of Detroit.
Yeah.
And yeah, some just really high quality stuff. And I think it's kind of funny you mentioned like older stuff on your channel, because every now and then like I'll go way to the back of my channel when this was like 2 or 3 cameras ago, and I watch it and I'm just like, this is terrible. This is just cringeworthy with the sound and the shaking. But like a lot of the stuff, it's like unfortunate because I don't want to delete it, even though it's I would say bad quality, but like some of the stuff is just things you don't see anymore, like Delta 747s, or like I have one of like a Royal Jordanian 340-200, just like things like that. You don't see it anymore. So yeah, it's a bummer, but yeah. It's
also part of the learning process as well. Like a lot of people will ask me, they're like, how is your footage so good? How do you keep it stable? How do you track the aircraft so well? And I mean, what I tell them all is it's just practice. I just sometimes, like in between aircraft, if I'm shooting departures at DTW, I'll just practice panning whatever the heck is there so I don't screw up what I'm actually after.
Right.
Recently, not really recently, but recent to everything else, I started working on like photographing and getting videos of fast jets, like fighters, and they're tricky because they're moving at, sometimes nearly the speed of sound. It's a really difficult thing, and all the early footage I have of them when I first started trying it is terrible, and the plane isn't in frame most of the time, but the more I practiced it, the better I got at it, and now like I'm at the point where I'm confident in the way it looks, and I'm planning on uploading some fighter jet compilations coming up soon. I know my Instagram's essentially all fighter jets, and a lot of people have been asking me like, where are the fighters, dude? Where's the fighters on YouTube? But it's just, I got to work out a few things with my editing software, and I've also been fortunate enough to do some pretty cool projects, and I have to actually wait for a certain time in order to upload specific footage per the request of like base PAs in the military.
All right, so just like in our last AvPod episode, where Rob brought some of his content over to kind of show off and talk about, you have done the same thing. So why don't you tell us about this first video that you've shared with us?
Yeah, so this is, as I'm sure many of you have seen throughout the year, this is the Canadian Air Force's Special 100 Years F-18 that's been part of the demo team. It was recently at Oshkosh, which is, if you don't know about Oshkosh, why are you living under a rock?
But so is this video from Oshkosh then?
Yes, so this is the Monday after Oshkosh, departure day. So I hung out in the morning. I got all the jet teams leaving, and my goal was to get the B-52 departing, but it broke. So that was a little bit of a bummer, but this is essentially just, I really enjoy this clip because it's a unique perspective of Oshkosh. Almost everything comes from the other side of the airfield there, as well as the vapor coming off the jet and the afterburners. Just, it made for a really nice video and serves as kind of like a teaser, I guess, for the military stuff that I am planning on putting on this channel soon. I've got a ton of footage of fighter jets that I can't wait to share with you guys.
And just, yeah, this is a really smooth pan shot, just like a lot of your other stuff. And like you said, like, military jets, obviously they go fast, but they're a lot smaller, too, than, like, if you were shooting, like, a 747. So, I mean, like, yeah. I think this really does show off your talent as a videographer, just with the smoothness of being able to capture, like, a small, fast object. Like that.
I mean, you say talent, I say I fail this 9 out of 10 times, and this one was just the one that turned out well, because I throw out a lot of fighter jet footage.
All right. All right, so this next clip here is kind of from our home airport, and this is a location you and I, as well as Rob and Sean over at Aviation. This is somewhere we've all spotted from and met up and kind of hung out before. So why don't you tell us a little bit about this one?
Yeah, so locally, there's kind of a joke going around about how I'm the 2-1 right guy, which is the runway this Antonov is taking off of. What this clip is, it's from 2022, hence why there's a Volga Antonov 124 in the United States. But essentially, you know, runway 21 right at DTW, we get the best views for it, thanks to the parking garage.
Smallest.
It is the smallest of the 4 parallels, and there are a lot of pilots who do not like using it because of its shortness.
Yep, and I've actually been in the cockpit before. Because a lot of the way Detroit flow works is if you're departing to the west, then generally they'll assign you 2-2 left for departures. And anything going to the east is going to be a 2-1 right departure. So all the Europe flights fly to the east. So by default, the ATC kind of assigns them via ACARS runway 21 right. And like I said, I've been up in the cockpit before when they've gotten the ACARS and said, no, tell them we want 2-2 left. They just they will not take it.
Yeah, a lot of these guys can't stand it. I was trying to coordinate something with an A350 pilot once because he was flying an empty flight down to Atlanta. So the plane's empty, and you know the 350, it's got great thrust. You know, it'll get off the runway really quick. and I said, I was like, all right, if you know the best thing I got for you is if you could take 2-1 right, I'll be there. And he goes, I will never use 2-1 right in my life because it is so short. And I was like, okay, I get where you're coming from, but you're gonna use like 4,000 feet of runway. You know, it's not that short. But some people just they don't want to chance it, which I completely understand. But also at the same time, it's like, really, dude, you know.
And yeah, like you said, the 350 went light. Here's a clip I have that this was a repositioned flight out of Atlanta, from Atlanta to Detroit. So obviously a very light 350. And it had me as the only passenger or additional crew member. So, I mean, like, you can see in this video just the, like, from throttle up to liftoff is just this plane's got power.
Yeah, you'll if you've been on a 352, you hear it, you feel it, you know what it's like. But so essentially, seeing those wide body, those heavy aircraft at Detroit, it's pretty rare on 2-1 right. It used to be a lot more rare before they repaved it and kind of widened the runway. But so this was actually, you know, this is one of the last Volga Antonovs into the U.S. We didn't know it at the time. But this is probably, I think, my favorite clip I've gotten at DTW, and I have, you know, it's my home airport, so I have plenty to choose from, but it's just, you know, the way it kicked up the snow, the gracefulness, the sound of the engines, you know, it's just the fact that they used 2-1 right, which was, at the time, I think this was the first, or no, it was the second one to ever do it. There was one, like, way long ago that was flying from Detroit to Columbus, which is like a blink and you're there flight. But this is just, it's one of my favorites. I also, some of you guys know the story that are friends with me behind how I almost missed it. And that Essentially, I channeled my inner Michael Schumacher to get to the spot in time because they started up 40 minutes early. And I got the text saying, hey, they're starting up right now. And I just went, shoot, and jumped in my car, somehow made it. And, the rest is in this video. But it's one of my favorites. It's the last, who knows when I'll get to see this specific type of Antonov again. It was a good time. Had some friends up on the garage. So it's a meaningful clip to me, as well as, it's a pretty damn cool aircraft.
Yeah, and I always like spotting on the garage, and it's fairly laid back. No one really bothers you, and you can just kind of hang out with the spotters and all your friends and stuff. But there have been some times, like thankfully you got this one, but I do know you have missed a couple really cool shots, and I think the one that stands out the most, I think, was the British Airways 350-1000.
Yeah, that one stung. Recently, so our home air show here is Thunder over Michigan, and our buddy, who I won't say his name on here, but he's essentially in charge of getting the static aircraft to be on display. Like, he reaches out to the squadrons and stuff. So one day he told me, hey, I'm going to get an Edwards F-16 out there. And I said, yeah, right. Because the Edwards guys, their mission is a lot different than some of these other squadrons. So they don't have the time to come out to air shows. So I'm thinking, like, well, there's that, as well as the fact that we're halfway across the country. There's no way. Well, then, I'm out there shooting the arrivals, and I hear Skull 25 on the radio, and I'm like, no way. And it's an Edwards F-16, but also this year is the 50th anniversary of the F-16. So I'm sure a lot of you guys have seen, like, the demo team special paint job of the YF-16. So this one, it's got a gray body, but it's got that YF-16 tail, and it's an Edwards bird, which is also super rare over here on this side of the Mississippi. So, I got it landing and everything, and I talked to the pilot. He was a really cool guy, and, initially I was expecting I think it was a 9:30 departure, and I completely forgot to ask for updates the night before. So it was a rude awakening when I got to Willow Run maybe 30 minutes before 9 o'clock, and it flew over my head heading back home. And I just sat there, and I was like, I'm never seeing that plane again. And I was like, dang,
Yeah, I don't know how many times, and this is at Willow, at Metro, but I've gotten to where I was about to spot only to see the rotation. And I'm like, man, if I was 45 seconds quicker. Yeah. And it's always something really cool too that you miss out on.
It's happened to you and me plenty.
I think it happens to everyone.
Yeah.
So in that last clip, we were kind of talking about Willow Run and Thunder over Michigan towards the end. And for those that aren't really familiar with Michigan aviation and plane spotting, not only do we have Detroit Metro, where we see all kinds of Delta wide bodies, like 350s, diversions from Chicago, but right down the road, we have Willow Run, which is a big cargo hub for a lot of airlines. And so
it's the biggest hidden gem in aviation.
It really is. I know a lot of people come to Michigan specifically to see the planes at Willow versus seeing Delta 350s or Lufthansa 787s at Metro. And like you said, it is a huge hidden gem, and that's where this next clip is from. So why don't you tell us about this one?
Yeah, so Willow Run is it's an awesome place. It's very laid back. It's very old in a way.
Yes, it is a classic. It's almost like a museum.
It's a flying museum. So a regular visitor there is the Boeing 727, and anytime I bring it up that there's 727s flying in the U.S. still, people are like, "Stop lying to me." I mean, I was just over at a Schiphol at Polderbahn, and I was talking to a couple of Dutch guys, telling them about it. And they're like, "You're lying," and I'm like, "I'm not lying," But Willow Run, it's just, in the way the airport is old, the planes that fly there are old as well. So what I have here is one of the last 727s flying in the world. This is 726 Charlie Kilo from Kalitta Charters 2. Unfortunately, Kalitta had retired their 727s earlier this year, so these birds will not be flying anymore. But this clip, it's one of my favorites of the Kalitta 727s that I have, and I feel like it kind of encapsulates Willow Run as a whole. The audio's quiet, and then as the jet gets closer, you hear the JT-8D screaming.
They roar.
Yeah, and then, it gets past you. There's the smoky trails. This was filmed in the winter. No snow, but the gray Michigan skies and the bare trees are a staple.
A very typical Willow-looking winter video.
Yeah, but essentially, we're super lucky to have these 727s really here. So it sucks that Kalittas are done flying, but we're not done yet. USA Jet is also at Willow Run, and they have 2 727s still flying.
And they were just recently painted. And I mean,
yes, and they look amazing.
Yeah, you show people pictures of these planes, and they're like, that's...
I've
never seen a 2.7 is that brand new.
Yeah, they look like new. Everything about the paint job was done properly. And we're also lucky... about 40 minutes to the north is Oakland County Airport, Pontiac. A lot of people call it.
Both where you and I more or less got our aviation starts.
Yep. So I live right next to Pontiac, and up there there are 3 727s thanks to IFL Group that are also flying. And the cool thing about those is 2 of them are the Super 27 variant. So they've got the upgraded avionics, the upgraded JT-8Ds. So unlike most 727s flying that, you can't see the clamshell reversers in action, on those ones you can because they don't need hush kits thanks to the engines being upgraded.
Slightly quieter.
Yeah, slightly.
But not really.
Yeah, slightly quieter. Maybe skirt the regulation, but
maybe
no, they're definitely louder. Yeah, they're definitely louder.
Still that classic jet feel.
Yep, and you smell it, you hear it. I mean, no matter where you are, you could be outside the airport and you'll still hear those ADs. It's great. It's something, we love to have here, even though their time is limited. We're enjoying every minute of it.
Mm-hmm. So speaking of the 727s and that retirement, the months, the 2 or 3 months leading up to that, you, me, and Rob would constantly be at Willow Run trying to get those last few shots, of all the planes before they flew up to Oscoda.
Yep.
And we did a lot of spotting there, obviously, but there was a picture that was taken, and I kind of laugh about it every time I see it.
Yeah, it's a good one.
And I kind of want to use that as a segue. We mentioned in the first clip that we showed, you just have some amazing panning and smoothness, and I think a lot of people like that, and that's why they like your videos. So why don't you tell us what kind of setup you use to take these videos?
Yep. So my camera, the camera I use is the Sony RX10. Was it Mark IV? So it's a camera that a lot of other people have. I know Matt from Melbourne Aviation, he has an RX10. What's his face? iTrapper over in Vancouver.
Yep.
He used to have one. I think he moved on from it. The guys at FRA Productions over in Germany, they have the RX10. It's a very nice balanced camera. It's not too expensive either. So it's one that I use. It's a little bit quirky, but it gets the job done. So that's my primary camera, and then I have a Viltrox, I think is how you say it, a VX18M tripod, because I do not have the hands to do handheld.
Neither do I.
Yeah,
but I still do.
Yeah, so I do it for my fighters, which is also why I throw out 9 videos out of 10. But with the bigger jets, I use the tripod because I don't have to whip the camera around essentially. So I have that for my tripod body because I'm a tall person. I'm 6'2". Most tripods are not tall like that, so I find it really difficult to film looking down at the camera. So the VX18 that I have is nice because it is taller than me, so I can look up when I'm filming. And in that picture, I'm sure you can see the tripod is well above my head and my hands are up on the camera. But you know, it's easier for me to film like that, and especially when I'm trying to clear a fence like you and I are in this picture, because some spots, the spot is there and you can get your car there, but the fence is way too damn tall. So you got to improvise, adapt, overcome, do what's necessary. Obviously, you know, you keep it legal, not trying to start anything stupid, like don't do anything dumb, but you know, we know Willow Run, it's okay there, so we do it. But essentially, you know, it's really good for helping me clear a fence to get a clear shot. And also, I have a fluid head. It's the Manfrotto something. I'm not 100% sure. I'll put it. We can put it in the description or something. I'll send like the information about it if anyone's interested. But fluid head tripod. It allows me to pan a lot easier and smoother. Just kind of have more control, so it's not as janky. And then I also use the Rode Video Mic Pro Plus for audio with a you know, the dead cat on top of it, because if you didn't have the dead cat, you're just gonna get a whole lot of wind.
Yep. Yeah, and so that picture, it makes me laugh every time, and that's Rob took that. This was one of the last. It was
the last arrival, I think, of 79.
So yeah, there's you on your car, and then there's me and my contraption, which is like a little like platform kind of thing that goes in my truck bed, and then a 3-step ladder, and I shoot with the Sony AX53, which Sean at Aviation turned me onto this. And
I used to have one as well. It's a great camera.
Yeah, and Sean, he has agreed to be on the podcast. He's actually very excited. So next time he is in Michigan, or we figure out a different way, he will be a guest on here, and we'll probably talk about that camera a little more in depth then. But that is something he turned me on to.
You're gonna have to talk about the hands of God that he has as well.
So I think that that setup kind of shows like some of the effort that you and I, as well as a lot of other spotters, kind of some behind the scenes stuff as far as like what you don't see and like what we do to get some of those shots. And so that's the next topic we're going to kind of talk about is going to be a sore subject to some people, but like I said, you recently became a YouTube partner, and for those that don't understand what that means, is that enables you to make money off of the ads that YouTube is putting on the videos. And for those that don't know, like this is another kind of thing that a lot of people don't realize. Even if you are not a partner, YouTube is going to put ads on your video. So when you become a partner, you actually get to keep some of that revenue. So in order to do this, like it's actually a lot more work than people think, because not only do I have my aviation channel, but I have a power sports channel and a woodworking channel. And the power sports channel, I became a partner on that probably like 3 years ago. And the woodworking channel is newer, and I'm still working on that. But you need to get 4,000 watch hours in a 1-year period, as well as 1,000 subscribers. So it's not just like you click a button and all of a sudden, boom, you make money. Like you really have to grow your channel. And that kind of brings us to our next point, which Blake is pretty much the same as me. When people use our content without permission.
Yeah, it's something I am very familiar with, and it's just it's definitely a subject, one of the subjects of all time. But you know, we're gonna talk about it a little bit, just because, you know, not only does it negatively affect Mike and I, but you know, dozens if not hundreds of other people out there busting their butts off to get this kind of content.
And like, I hate to be that guy, but like if you use my content, even if it's like part of like a compilation or something, if you use like a part of it, I'm going to do like a 7-day copyright strike, to where like you'll have time to take it down, but before you get the copyright strike. But there's like a lot of people out there that will just blatantly re-upload like a full video too, and I have zero problem just submitting a take it down now copyright strike, where like you're gonna get struck.
Yeah, so I deal with that a lot as well. I mentioned earlier, I'm not super active on Instagram. That is because Instagram's enforcement of copyright is kind of wonky right now. And essentially, every time I upload something on there, no matter what I do, I find it on hundreds of these repost accounts immediately. And you know, the video on my actual account does not get any publicity, whereas these repost accounts get to leech off of my work, and their videos go viral even though it's my footage, and they'll claim it as their own.
Right. And like I said, we both make money off YouTube, and this isn't like, this is definitely not my primary means of income.
Yeah,
and
neither is it mine.
But at the same time, like, the money that I make from my channel, I use to buy things that support the channel, like cameras or like software or even trips.
Yeah, to go
plane spotting.
Footage, you know, it's the same for me. Essentially, the footage I put up there, it's a feedback loop. The more people that see it and the better positivity it gets, the more, you know, effort I can put into it, and the money I make off my channel I can use to better my equipment,
exactly,
try out new locations, spend the time to go get this footage so I can get it back to you guys. It's supposed to be a feedback loop, and essentially what these repost accounts do is they basically just come into that feedback loop and take away from it, so, you know, we can't do as much. I'm a very lenient person when it comes to copyright. Like, I don't like to really give people strikes, and if you know, I'm big on permission. If you ask me for permission, most of the time I will say yes. My only condition is that, like, at least let the footage make its way out of the algorithm on my channel, which usually takes a month for it to fully kind of die down. It's not getting promoted anymore. Once that happens, have at it, because it's already done its part for me.
You've made your money and gotten your
yeah, it's already done its part for me. And if you want to try and grow, you know, sharing like aviation news or cool clips, like I know the Daily Dose of Aviation guy, he's pretty good at that, you know, asking for permission, and the clips on his channel, he doesn't really put them up as soon as they happen unless like it's a crazy news story, you know. But like, we need more people like that. I know I've dealt with plenty of repost accounts that just, I'll put like a watermark on my footage, and somehow they'll take it off, upload it as theirs.
It so where you can't see it, and then they won't give you credit either.
Yeah, and then like as soon as I go to take it down, they lose their mind and put out a bad word about you. They try to get people to go to war with you, and it's stupid.
But yeah, so I mean, like, at the end of the day, really, like, the only person that's going to be growing their channel with my content is going to be me.
Yeah.
And, like, sorry if you don't really agree with that, but at the end of the day, like, it's my channel, and I'm the one putting the effort into getting these clips and whatnot. So,
yeah,
like, sorry, but that's just how it's going to be, and that's how it's going to be going forward.
Yeah.
Like, a lot of it, too, is, like, with your channel, like, you have some amazingly smooth footage, and that's, like, what people love about it and what makes your channel unique. And, like, I don't really have that smoothness. Like, I have a completely different setup for shooting. Like, I shoot handheld because I'm doing this, like, at work. I can't really drag, like, a tripod and stuff.
Yeah.
But what does make my channel unique is that I'm within the fence at a lot of airports, and I can, like, get way closer than the average person. So, like, that's what makes my channel unique. And when someone else takes my footage because they're like, oh, this is a really cool shot, like, next to the runway, that's, like, taking away from the uniqueness of my channel.
Yeah, everybody's got their own unique style, and, you know, that's one of my favorite things about the community in aviation. Everybody has their own take on how they want to capture the aircraft. You know, there's all these sorts of different styles, whether you're filming or editing. It's really cool to see, like, all these different perspectives and takes off of these aircraft flying around. And, you know, I'm sure some of you know, we put a lot of effort into the work. Like, here in Michigan, not only is, like, devoting the time and waiting for the aircraft a lot, we have to put up with weather, too.
Yep.
Here in Michigan, temperatures are below freezing pretty often in the winter. So if something comes in the winter, we're freezing our asses off out there, you know, like, it can get rough. So we're putting in the effort, and just to see your video, like, blowing up on somebody else's channel because they claim it to be theirs, when in reality
you should be getting the views.
All they did was sit on their computer, screen record it, and upload it. It's just, it stinks, you know. Because we're trying to put our footage out there for people to enjoy, and the thing about being a partner is we want to take the money we get to add it to our footage, to make it better, so that way more people can enjoy it. when people go out there and just take it for their own, it takes away from that. And I think it takes away from the community as a whole.
Yeah, and I think that's like a really good point about people don't understand. Like, you'll see us post like a 1.5-minute clip, but like a lot of people don't understand like what went into that clip, because like, say a plane is scheduled to depart at 2:00. If it's a cargo plane, like, you're probably going to be sitting there for at least an hour and a half, which like, it's always cool spotting with your friends because like you're hanging out waiting for it to leave, but like, there's a lot of like just sitting around and waiting. And like you mentioned, the weather too. Like, the other day when we had some diversions into Metro, I went to the airport because there was an Ethiopian 787 and a Kalitta 747. And I mean, I knew obviously there was a storm coming because that's what hit Chicago, but I thought I had a little more time. So there's a kind of comical live stream of 2-1 Right where
it's just getting drenched.
All of a sudden it starts to downpour, and right as it started to downpour, Coletta started taxiing, and I was like, nope, I've waited like an hour or two for this. Like, I'm staying. And I mean, like, those were some big raindrops.
Yeah, and you could feel those ones, you know. It's
and like, you can see it in this clip. Like, I think this was just an amazing shot. Like, I love weather shots like this. Getting them, not so much, but like,
all like the water effects, the spray, the vapor on the wings. It's awesome, but it sucks standing out there in the pouring rain with your camera trying to make sure it doesn't short circuit on you.
And like, another funny thing about this shot, like what people don't know is like, it's a little expensive to park in the parking garage.
Yeah.
Well, at Metro, they have a little employee motorcycle parking lot at the bottom of the parking garage. So a lot of times, what I'll do is ride my motorcycle there, and I can park for free. Well, that was not that exciting in that monsoon, because after I took that shot, I still... Like, I got out of the rain. I wasn't standing in... Like, I was standing in the garage. But I still had to ride a sport bike through the highway with all the water spray and that. So, I mean, like...
if you know how diversions in the airline industry work, you know it really takes a big storm that lasts a while to get something to divert. And essentially what happened to Mike is, you know, that big storm that was there over Chicago long enough to force these... you know, heavy jets to run out of fuel and need to divert. Well, it came to Detroit, so it was over Detroit for just as long, which meant you had to ride home in it.
So, yeah, I guess, like, bottom line, we go through a lot to get this footage, and it's our footage. Please don't steal it.
Just ask, and most of the time, me personally, I will say yes, just it might take a month for me to actually give you the video, but I'm all for sharing stuff. That's what we're here to do. Just... Don't steal it, you know? Just ask. Asking goes a long way.
All right, everyone. So thank you for joining us for the second episode of the AvPod. This is going to go into a playlist with the other one. I'm not really sure how YouTube does this. I clicked a button to where it said it was a podcast and it put it in some playlist. So I don't know if you guys see any difference on your end or if it like put it in a different format or what, but if you want to see the first one or any future podcast, because we do have some other guests planned already that I'm pretty excited about.
Yeah, you're not going to want to miss those. So.
Yeah, definitely check out that podcast, and don't forget to like this video and subscribe.
Yep. It was great being on here and everything. You know, again, as we said earlier, I do this for you guys. So feel free, like, if you want to see something, shoot me a DM on Instagram. I try my best to look at them all. Obviously, Instagram has a huge bot problem right now, so there's a little bit of sorting I have to go through if you know what I'm talking about. But, so if I don't see it immediately, just give me maybe a week for those bot accounts to get banned, because they all do eventually. I'll see your DM. You know, if you got a request for certain content, I'll do my best. I got a lot of exciting stuff coming up. This morning, as we're recording this, I just put a video from Amsterdam up there. So if you want to go check that out, you know, please be my guest. But essentially, you know, Mike and I, we're filming these videos for you guys. So just enjoy them, you know, because we enjoy filming them and we want you guys to enjoy what we're filming here.
Yep, and like Blake said, he's got a lot of really cool content coming, so don't forget to subscribe to him on YouTube as well. That's Casper Aviation, and again, the links to all of his socials as well as mine are down in the description below. So thank you guys for listening and watching, and stand by for the next one.
Yep, sweet.